Hi guys, let's talk about literal and non-literal language. So our I can statement is I can determine the difference between literal and non-literal language. So we need to know what those two words mean. The first one, literal, means a literal meaning is the exact meaning of a word or phrase. So when words mean exactly what they say, that is a literal meaning. Here's an example. The boy couldn't come to school because he had a fever. Okay, in that sentence, fever means a high body temperature. Here's the little boy right over here. It means that he's sick and his body is trying to get better. And because he's sick, he can't come to school. This sentence is a literal sentence. It means exactly what it says. Non-literal, now we know non at the beginning means not. So that means it's the opposite. A non-literal, or sometimes we call this a figurative meaning. These two words mean the same thing, non-literal and figurative. These meanings are different than the exact meaning of a word or phrase, so the words may not mean exactly what they say. Now that can be kind of tricky to figure out. So just like when we find a new word that we don't know, or we have a multiple meaning word, we are going to use our context clues to help us figure out what the author really means. Now sometimes a non-literal or figurative phrase will be an idiom that we know, like it's raining cats and dogs, or hold your horses. We know that raining cats and dogs means that it's raining hard outside. And we know that hold your horses means be patient and wait just a second. Okay? But sometimes the figurative language that an author uses may be an idiom that we're not familiar with, or it may not be an idiom at all. He may just be using a different type of figurative language. Now, we don't have to, in third grade, we don't have to know all the different types of figurative language and be able to identify all of them, but we do have to be able to tell the difference between a literal sentence and a non-literal sentence, and we need to be able to figure out what that non-literal sentence means. And to do that, we're going to use our context clues. That means we may use other words in the sentence, we may use the sentence before or after that one, and we can use the illustrations in a book to help us as well. We're going to use all those parts of the context to help us figure out what it is the author is really trying to say to us. Okay. Here's an example using the word fever. That's non-literal. Remember the literal sentence, the boy couldn't come to school because he had a fever. Okay, it really means he's sick. He has a fever. But look at this sentence at the bottom. Roberto had a fever to play and win at baseball. Is Roberto sick in that sentence? No, remember in the story, Roberto just really liked baseball. So in this sentence, fever means a passion or a great excitement. This is a non-literal meaning for the word fever. Roberto is not sick. He just really, really likes baseball. Let's look at some other examples from Roberto Clemente, the Pride of the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're going to look at some sentences from the text, and then we're going to try to figure out what it is the author means. Here's our first example from the very beginning of the text. It says, on an island called Puerto Rico, where baseball players are as plentiful as tropical flowers in a rainforest. This is on page 168 if you want to look back in your book and see the picture there. But I want you to close your eyes and imagine a tropical rainforest. In that tropical rainforest, would there just be maybe one or two flowers? Or would there be a lot of flowers? Yeah, I would expect in a tropical rainforest that there would be a lot of flowers. And I also see this word plentiful, which comes from the word plenty. And that lets me know that what this author really means is that in Puerto Rico, baseball players are as plentiful as tropical flowers in a rainforest means that there are a lot of baseball players in Puerto Rico. Now, which one is more fun to read? There are a lot of baseball players in Puerto Rico, or on an island called Puerto Rico, where baseball players are as plentiful as tropical flowers in a rainforest. There once was a boy who had a fever to play at baseball. This one is much more fun to read, what the author actually wrote. Using that non-literal or figurative language, it makes the writing beautiful and more interesting for us to read. We just have to work a little bit harder to help figure it out. When we make sure we pay close attention to those details and use our context clues, we can figure out that what the author really means here is that there were a lot of baseball players in Puerto Rico. It's your turn to try one. Let's take a look at this next example from page 170. The text said, soup cans turned into softballs, softballs turned into baseballs. All right, it's your turn to try it. The video is going to pause. I want you to type what you think the author meant. On this page, did it really mean that a soup can turn into a softball? Would it magically transform from a soup can into a softball? Or can a softball magically transform into baseballs? Not in this text. This is not a fantasy. This is a biography, a true story. Soup cans can't really turn into something else. What the author really meant was that Roberto started out hitting soup cans when he was young, and as he grew, he changed to hitting softballs, and as he got even better, he was finally hitting baseballs. So the soup cans and softballs didn't actually transform into anything new. Roberto just changed what he was using to practice as he got older. Let's try another. On page 174, the text says, Roberto ran like lightning and beat the throw to first base. What do you think that sentence means? If you type that ran like lightning means that Roberto was fast. He's super fast. You are exactly right. Okay, he ran like lightning means that he's super fast. And here's our last one. From page 188, the end of the story. Roberto's spirit is still growing. It grows in the bats and gloves and arms and legs of all the Latino baseball players. It grows in the charities he started for poor people in Puerto Rico. What do you think the author meant there? In this section, it does not mean that Roberto's spirit is actually growing like a plant might grow or a person might grow. What it means is that people still remember Roberto and his memory still lives on. He still has a positive influence because as more people learn about him and the things that he did, they also believe that they can be baseball players and they can also help people. So it just means that people still remember him and he still has a positive influence. Keep practicing and reading.